Good morning.
Good morning. It's not the weekend yet, but that's the closest we're getting to Wednesday.
We're almost there. Memorial Day weekend. Nice.
I don't know, right? Wow, I can't even believe it. It's going to be the end of May. Half the year is gone. Gone. So good
Yep.
morning, guys. How are you guys?
Good. Good.
Good. Catherine's like, good. I'm good. So it's been pretty busy. Same thing in real estate. Nothing's changed right now. I think everything has been crazy. What have you seen, Catherine?
Honestly, it's been even wilder than before to me. Just the insane amount of people that have been seeing just one home, just because it's the only one available. It's been crazy, crazy, crazy. And then trying to set up appointments as well for buyers. It's been a challenge, but get it done. But still, yes.
Yeah,
I see the
I
same thing.
had. Yeah, no, I think uh, it just depends on the area that you're in, or where you're showing, because everywhere is different. What's going on and what's happening. So
Mm-hmm.
it seems like there's certain when you get a buyer in a certain area, you're like, yay, it's not going to be as crazy as certain other cities, because there are cities where it is just it's nuts. But I think because I had an agent call me and say, oh, I have a buyer that's, I think, I don't know, in the 800,000s. And they were excited because they felt that it wasn't going to be as competitive in that market. And I'm like, no, it still is.
How
Like,
competitive, yes.
yeah, it's not just first time buyers, it's everywhere. So it's definitely still very competitive. And I'm noticing that sellers now that are looking at options that are, have one thought of maybe, they want to move because they just don't, there's something in their home that they want changed, and they figure, it's better to move. I'm seeing that now, them calling and kind of saying that they're trying to time the market right, but there's really, that's really hard to do, because we just really truly don't know. So what we try to tell them, if it makes sense for you right now, then do what makes sense for you. I have a client who owes IRS tax liens, and she last year she wasn't going to be able to sell because of how much she owed, and this year it would wipe away all of her liens. So she's like, man, do I just start fresh and just figure it out, because I'll never be in this position again, and no
Right.
one likes to owe the IRS, that's for sure.
Heck no.
So it's kind of challenging for different sellers to make that decision. But welcome, Brenda. Good morning. Good morning, Brenda. Welcome.
Morning.
Hola.
My signal might be like slow. I don't know what's going on, but
Okay.
Are you outside? Oh, you're on your patio, right? Am I tripping?
No, I think so. I think she's outside. Yeah. I think she's outside, but
There's a patio on her deck.
she's like, no.
I'm in Palm Desert.
Oh, you are? Oh, never mind. I thought she was at home.
Oh, I didn't hear her. What did she say?
She's in Palm Desert.
Oh, she's in Palm Desert.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. She's funny. Okay, so Brenda, can you, I don't know if you can hear us, but we're just talking about what you're seeing as an agent in the market. Can you talk, or are you going to be frozen? She's
Yeah, I think the connection's not.
Yeah, I don't think it's good. Okay, well, moving on. So they were saying that obviously we've reached an all-time high as far as the year versus year, looking at 1 year ago to this year.
Yeah.
And I actually even wanted to kind of share that as well. Like it has, like, from what the prices were, 1 year ago, to, to what they are now. It's definitely, a lot of people are happy that they bought when they bought, and then others are like, shoot, I should have waited to sell. So it's just something where you can't have regret. Just like right now, everybody in that crypto thing, they're like, I should have bought more. I should have this. I should have that. It's like, just do what you got to do, to make it, to make it happen. But I just wanted to show the number really quick. I know we were having an issue with our Canva this morning. But so last year, exactly at this time, the average, this is in Jurupa Valley. So the average list price was $464. And this exactly 1 year, the average is $566. So it's went up $100,000. Basically, it's just over $100,000. And same thing with the average. The sales price was at $463. So we really weren't in that bidding war just yet. We weren't there yet. We were still, people were still uncertain as to what was happening. So they were just happy to sell their home and be done with it, and move on. We weren't really in that crazy remove appraisal contingency. We weren't in that yet. And now, versus now, the average sales price is $585. So you figure we're $20,000 above list price right now. That's average. So now you figure, definitely the market has changed in 1 year, and it's going to be very interesting again going into 2022 to see what we have to say about that as well. So it's going to be super interesting, coming next year, because we don't have a crystal ball. We wish we did. Believe me, I've been asked that for many years, doing real estate. And I always have the same answer when they say, Sona, do you have any this, this? It's like, all you can do is kind of project and look at history. But if I had a crystal ball, I would not be here right now. Trust me, I wouldn't be here. I would be somewhere else. So I would probably be with Brenda. So on vacation. But yeah, so it's just, like I said, it's important just to get the facts for you and determine if it makes sense for you and do what's best for you, as the homeowner. Yeah. So, but I actually have, in a lot of our deals, we really haven't seen shortage of appraisals. But you know what? In the last 2 weeks, I've started to see them. I know we have a few agents in the office, Joe being one of them, his client. What was it, Jessica? How low was it on his? And then they had to negotiate over the weekend. I forget.
His purchase price was $365 and it came out to $330. So he had a $35,000 gap.
Whoa. Yeah, and I'm seeing that.
Was his deal in the high desert?
Oh, okay.
So I see that a lot on our deals in the high desert. For whatever reason, maybe it's because but the appraisers aren't too familiar with the area, or I'm not really sure why. But I have a listing in Victorville too that also came back under what our contracted price is, which is still higher than our list price, but still the comps did support, different. So I just think that I don't really know. It's a high desert thing because I haven't had it with the other listings, just the high desert. So
yeah, and just be mindful. I had one where it was the house on tax. It showed a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. But what's crazy is the home, the way these people did it is they closed off where the door was in the hallway. They opened it up to the living area and made it like a den. It still did have a closet, but they took off the doors.
Mhm.
So there's no hinges or anything. So although it could be, I guess, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And again, it's all up to the appraiser, because we had another one very similar and the appraiser appraised it as a 3-bedroom. Well, this appraiser said, no, its functionality right now is a 2-bedroom. So it has to be comped as a 2-bedroom. So the
Wow.
value on this particular home came in a lot lower, because obviously they're not comparing it to the 3 bedrooms,
Right.
that originally the listing agent had assumed it would be, comped against. So, I'll never take it for granted, and, have that conversation with the appraiser prior, because all they had to do was add doors.
I was gonna
You
say
know,
that's a simple
It would
fix.
have made a big difference. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And so, on this particular one, the appraisal contingency was removed. It came in about 40,000 below. And but we were able to, even though the appraisal contingency was removed, we were able to renegotiate our price, because of the appraisal. Thankfully, like I said, the seller and the agent were open to it. We made a case and they agreed. So, but that doesn't always happen. That doesn't always happen. So you just have to definitely make sure you do your homework, because it does get, difficult. So now that your connection's better, Brenda, how's it been in your real estate world? I think you're muted.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was trying to sound out the back noise because there's like this waterfall behind me. So it has a, like white noise behind me. But it's still busy out there. Very, very competitive. Very, still very fast. Houses are still going within the first week of them being listed for above list price for the most part. And yeah, the competition's still out there. So know who you work with. That's about it.
Oh man, I can't agree with you anymore on that. It's so important. It's so hard. Like, a lot of people always say, I want to be a listing agent. I want to be a listing agent. But you know what? It's just as hard to be a listing agent than it is to be a buyer's agent. You're out there weeding out, homes and trying to get offers accepted, and we're trying to find the right ones, because people unfortunately just aren't honest.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
I had, speaking of listings, I had 3 listing appointments in the last like week and a half. And 2 of them, they thought like, okay, I'm not going to find out what's on their title, the certain things behind it. And I'm like, will you make sure that you don't have liens, because that all affects your end of sale amount. Because if you're going to be rolling that over and you think that's not going to get counted for, so there's things that as a seller, that I'll definitely have to be honest with us. And I think, like I tell my sellers, like it's a 2-way street. If I choose to work with you and you choose to work with me, then great, right? But we're not meant for everybody. So, and the same thing, like it's a binded contract. So we both have to be on the same page to want to work with each other. It's not just a one-way street. So
true. It is very true. And it's sometimes it's unfortunate, because when you have nothing but the best interests for whoever it is that you're working with, and they feel that someone else is just telling them something that sounds good, even though it's not likely or not, true. It's unfortunate, because they learn the hard way. I've had that happen as well, where they come back later and they're like, oh, they said this, that, or the other, but this is actually what happened. And it is sad. It is sad, because I know that, especially us, how we work together, we're very, I know I'm very cautious of making sure that, these are their lives that we're messing with, their livelihoods, what's going to happen, their expectations. It's like, there's a lot on the line. And there's so much legality with it too, you're putting yourself into. So yeah, you got to be careful, for sure, definitely. But no, I really project a very strong summer. I do see, like I said, I do see some areas where it is. and I don't know that I can't say that it's winding down because I don't think that that's the right word, but I do feel that listing agents are getting a little bit smarter and on how they're negotiating, because a lot of people were just throwing out crazy offers and they were going for this crazy offers.
Right.
But it's super important to educate your seller and let them know what some of these tactics are, and they're not always good.
Yeah, just because they throw out the offer doesn't mean that it's going to work in the end,
Yes. I'm not sure who wrote that, but it says, yes, that's what I tell people. They don't listen to me. Laugh out loud. And make sure it's all in writing.
What comment they were talking about? Make sure it's all in writing.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely got to make sure everything's in writing. You got to.
Absolutely.
I had a home that I sold last year in. It says me, but I don't know who me is. Oh, it's Griselda. Hi, Griselda. Good morning.
Oh.
Don't listen to me. Hi, Griselda. How funny. I had a home that I sold last year for $590, and it's currently on the market. It was listed for $695. They did renovate it, and I spoke to the agent the other day, and she says that they're in escrow for $800,000.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I heard something like that the other day too, where they were listed at like almost 900,000, and it ended up they're in escrow at 1.2, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
There are people out there that don't care. Like that's not worth that. The house itself is not worth 1.2 at this moment in time, and they're willing to pay above just to get it. Okay.
Look at you. Behind you, Catherine. We're like, hi. No, but oh wait, hold on, let's see what she says. What about when they say they will go over the value of the house? Yeah, no, some people are doing that. They're willing to pay more than what the home is worth. And what's funny is when I got into real estate, and we used to always say that to a seller, a home is only worth what a buyer's willing to pay for it. That was something that we used. That was the term, that because they would say, well, what's the value of my home? Obviously, it's not crazy like this. And we would say, oh, more or less, this is where it is. But your home is only worth what a buyer's willing to pay for it. So
I still tell my buyers and my sellers that, because as a buyer, like it could be listed at a certain amount, but if you have the reserves and you're willing to pay the difference, I tell them, what is the value worth to you? Do you see the value behind that outside of that appraisal? Because it's only worth what their opinion, and an appraisal opinion is only whatever the comps support, and then their personal opinion on the property. So it's really, if buyers say like, okay, yeah, I think it's worth me paying an extra 10, 20,000 or whatever. And I tell my sellers the same thing. A buyer can come in here and say, I think your house is worth way more than, what I think the appraisal is going to come back at. So I'm going to give you this. And
yeah. And and the bank, just to get to your question, the bank is okay with it if you have the money in the bank to support it. Right. The bank's not going to loan you more than what it's worth.
Right.
But if you have cash, like you do, Griselda, then yes, you can pay more.
All right.
Yeah. So, and it's a choice. It's a choice, how bad you want the home. It really, really is. It's just a choice. Good morning, our newest licensed agent, Josie.
Yes.
She got it?
She got
Yes. Got it.
All right, Josie. Congratulations. I'm so happy you finally got it. Yes.
so exciting.
it. See, persistence, not giving up.
Right?
I told her, go home. Do not cook.
Study.
Do not clean. Just go home and study.
Yeah. You have to be 100% focused for sure.
Yeah.
That's good though. I'm
So yeah, it all paid off. So I'm excited for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is funny. She says, but some don't have the money and they want the house. Yeah, I know. That's why we say that this market is not for everybody.
Right.
They thank you, Loopy.
Aw.
Thank you.
Oh, I love Lupe. She's awesome.
Yeah. And Griselda, just like she would tell me, you had your time. Some of these buyers had their time, but they didn't listen. And so now their time is past for the time being because they're not able to compete in this market.
Right.
So, yeah. But it is what it is.
Now,
and-
hey, tell Honey Boo Boo to get you a new Louis.
I know. He's
So you want to
actually-
laminate it.
I think she told me, if I'm not mistaken, that he was gonna buy her a nice watch. So
I would doubt
that
it.
way she can keep track of time. She's not home late.
Aw,
She's gonna be like, Josie, it's time to go home.
she's always coming in with a nice little Louis thing, something new all the time.
Yeah,
He spoils her. It's good. Good stuff.
absolutely. So Jessica, if you want to go ahead and put the numbers, you could just skip mine and then go on to Brenda. I think Brenda comes on first.
Yes, ma'am.
My kids all have online classes today, so I might have to log out at 10:45. So
Oh,
Okay, we'll get you in and out.
So we have Highland. I did mine for the last 7 days, so last Wednesday or this Wednesday. And market update for Highland. We have 5 new listings and average list price $395, average sale price $406 with 7 days averagely on the market. And in the last 7 days, 16 homes have sold.
And one of those was mine. Yay!
And then we have Fontana. And this is again for the last 7 days. 35 new listings, 480 average list price, 496 average sale price, and average days on the market, 19 with a number of homes sold, including one of mine, 36. So
nice.
that's Fontana. Then we have Rialto. In Rialto, we have 15 new listings, average list price 455, average sale price 454, and average days on the market 16 days. With the number of homes sold in the last 7 days, we have eight homes.
Brenda, real quick, is this 2 weeks or a month?
7 days.
Oh, you did 7 days. Okay.
Last 7 days. And I already did Fontana. San Bernardino. Okay, so in San Bernardino, we have 19 new listings. Average list price $397, average sale price $409, average days on the market 14 days, and number of homes sold 38. So, and I did list a property in San Bernardino, and we got it in escrow on day 3. So
Nice.
one of those was one of mine. So
Yeah.
I think that was all for mine.
All right. Oh, we're on to me. Okay, sorry. I'm not used to that. Okay. So Redlands currently, I did a 14-day. I didn't do 7 days, so I did 14. So the average, or I'm sorry, there's 18 active listings on the market currently. There's 38 under contract, 34 have closed. The average list price is $514, but that doesn't seem right to me. Am I correct, Jessica? I thought it was higher. And then the average sale price is $522 because I'm pretty sure it's in the 60s. And then the average days on the market is 8. Unless they went down. But I don't think so.
Well, the thing is, those numbers for the average, the average sale price and average list price it's going to go based on the dates that you selected. Every week,
I did do.
based on what closed, what's active, and
Yeah.
so those numbers fluctuate a lot because, like, say next week everything in the millions closes, then that average is going to be averaged out
true.
from those
Very
highest numbers. So I think that's why it's throwing you off a little bit.
Yeah, because last week it was in the 6s for sure.
Yeah, because the numbers are correct. I double checked them, and yeah, that's what the numbers are. But
All
I'm
right.
assuming it's the same thing. Or just is it the 2
Yeah.
weeks?
It goes
Okay.
based on what.
Sounds good. Next, Colton.
Colton.
Okay. There's currently right now 4 active listings on the market, 12 are pending under contract, 17 have closed. The average list price is $397. The average sale price is $409, and the average days on the market is 9, which sounds about right, for sure. They go like hotcakes in Colton, especially in Colton. Okay, so Rancho, let's see. We have 37 active listings on the market, 54 pending under contract, 65 have closed. The average list price is $773, and the average sale price is $794. That's just insane. And then let's see, the average days on the market is 16. So just to let you know, Rancho is a hot commodity, I guess, and there's lots of people that want to live in Rancho and lots of people selling. So, yep. And that is your market update.
Yes, we know.
Now's the time to sell
Yes.
if you're looking to cash in on your equity.
Yeah. You're looking. You don't want to miss the boat.
No. There's all sorts of people that always like come back later on. They're like, oh shoot, I should have sold. Now my house is only worth this much. Or there you go.
Yeah, now's the time to talk to your mother-in-law and just say, you know what, I'm sorry, and I need to stay with you for a little bit.
Dude. And now, and if you were thinking or hesitating, if there's any sellers out there that were hesitating, now, I mean, we can host open houses. There's a lot more people, a lot more traction that can be drawn into your home right now. So even better for you.
Yeah, so it is even more activity. Absolutely. Right. Yeah. So, and if you want to move out of state, it's so possible. I had a client who wasn't sure. I connected her with different agents in different states, and she was able to determine and narrow it down, you know, where she's going to go. Because a lot of times, if you've never been out of California, you don't know where you would want to go.
Right.
So you don't know nothing about the areas. So, you know, we can also connect you with some great agents in different areas who can, you know, give you either a virtual tour, or you can fly in and you know, spend a weekend and see if it's a place that you would like, you know, to retire in or enjoy or what have you. I have a couple sellers doing that. They're actually buying a couple properties in 2 different locations, so that way they can, you know, go back and forth. So
like
I mean,
home kind of.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's you know, there's so many options, you know.
Yeah.
If you've dreamt it, you can do it. You know, you just gotta connect with the right people to you know, to explore your options. I myself went on a listing appointment last week, and the sellers are thinking about getting into this property, a new property, and we were discussing that. And then we started talking about, you know, second homes. So then they were like, oh my gosh, that would be something we would love to do. So then I kind of showed them and I helped them. So now we're actually going to be looking for 2 homes and not just 1. I showed them how to structure and leverage their equity that they're, you know, that they're making on their sale, and how not to just focus on putting it into one primary residence, but also into an investment. So again, there's so many opportunities out there. You know, you can do a lot with it, but you just definitely need, you know, the right guidance, so that way, you know, you can make the best decision, you know, for yourselves. But anyhow, with that said, we're running out of time, and I don't want to take up Brenda's time, but also Jennifer is our guest today. So I'll let Jessica go ahead and introduce her.
Do you guys see the flickering on my screen, or is it just me?
I don't see. I don't see any flickering.
I was muted. So I have as a guest today Jennifer Felton. She had joined us, I believe, a month before, but she's back talking about probate and real estate. So if you want to go ahead.
Great. I'm going to share my screen, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So glad to be here. So we are going to do a quick primer on probate and real estate. Probate is something that we've had to deal with more than we've ever had to before because of the pandemic, and how it's affected real estate. And most people don't like to talk about dying. I don't, like anybody, like everybody else. But the reality is that that's one of the things that we all have coming. So if you don't prepare and don't have things in place, probate is where you end up, and that is a huge impact on your family. So avoiding probate and kind of those ideas is what we're going to talk about today. So here we go. What is probate, right? So it's the process of appointing someone to administer the property of a person who's died, right? So if someone passes away, probate is how their estate gets administered. It's done through a specific branch of the court called the probate court. Shocking name, right? probate court. And it is done by filing a petition. So if someone dies and they don't have their property set up in a way where it will transfer without probate, then filing is required to probate the estate. Okay. So to open a probate case, the executor, if there's a will, and understand, if you have a will, it doesn't mean you avoid probate. It's only a trust or some sort of vesting with some sort of right of survivorship, right? Like a joint tenants or community property with right of survivorship. Without one of those vestings or without a trust, a will and any other dying with a will is called testate. You have a will. Dying without a will is called intestate. Both intestate and testate succession go through the probate court. So if there's a will, the person who acts is called the executor. If there's no will, the person is called the administrator. Their jobs are to collect the assets, pay the debts and expenses, and then distribute the rest of the estate to the beneficiaries. Okay, so that's the process of probate. And I will tell you right now in California, it's taking a year or two to get through a probate. So this is not a quick process. Our court system has not handled the pandemic well, like many other parts of our government have not handled the pandemic well. And so the courts are really slow and delayed. And this is a particular area where we've seen a lot of that. So we want to avoid probate if we can. The only people who do really well in probate are the attorneys, right? The attorneys make money. Nobody else does. It takes away from the value of the estate. The probate fees are statutory in California, so the court sets what the attorneys can charge. So they can charge 4% of the first $100,000, 3% of the next $100,000, 2% of the next $800,000, 1% of the next $9 million, and 1/2% for the next $15 million. So we'll give you a real example, right? So we've got an estate valued at $600,000, right? That includes a house worth $500,000 and assets worth $100,000, right? So that's the value of the estate. Understand, the house has a loan on it for $400,000 in our example, which means the true value of the estate is only $200,000, right? The $100,000 in equity on the house and the $100,000 in other assets. But the probate fees are based on the full value, the $600,000. They don't take the debts into account when they calculate. Attorneys write the laws in the state. Remember that. So for the first $100,000, the attorney would get $4,000. The second $100,000, they'd get $3,000, and the next $400,000, 2% at $8,000. So the attorney fee for this estate is $15,000. Right? That's $15,000 of a $200,000 estate that walks out the door with the attorneys. Right? That's before costs. Filing fees. The administrator or the executor also get that same amount of money. So it's a huge debt and draw. Not only does it take time, it takes away money from the estate. So we want to avoid probate if we can. Okay. Other costs, right? The administrator and the executor, like I said, they get the same $15,000. The assets have to be appraised, and that person is called a referee. And that person puts in a bill, so you got to pay the referee. The court, they want money too. The filing fees on a probate come out to a couple grand when all's said and done. And that's assuming we're not fighting, right? If we're fighting and family members are all claiming different interests, then it even gets higher and more expensive. And in many cases, the court will require a bond to be posted. and that costs money. So lots of costs. So intestate succession, if you don't have a will. So like I said, if you have a will, you're still going to end up in probate court, but you're going to tell the court what to do with your assets, right? You're going to say, I want my stuff to go to my wife, my son, my kids, whoever, right? Or I don't want my stuff to go to my wife, my son, right? A will gives you that ability. Without a will, when you die, like I said, intestate, the way that people inherit is decided by the court. It's actually statutory. So there's no discretion. The court can't say, oh, well, I die, right? And maybe I'm not talking to my daughter, right? We've had a bad relationship. It doesn't matter if I was talking to her or not. If I don't have a will that says don't give her any money, she's going to get a portion of my estate by intestate succession rules. So if you want to have any control from the grave, you want a will, right? You want to have those documents in place. And the way that people inherit is statutory, right? So it's going to be spouses, parents, and kids. If you have any of those, that is the first tier, and they're going to get your assets. If you don't have any of those, then there's second, third, fourth tier. It gets pretty complex depending on what you do. So if you have a spouse but no children, parents, or siblings, your spouse gets everything. If you have children but no spouse, parents, or siblings, your children get everything. If you have parents but no children, spouse, blah, 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 right? But if you have a spouse and children, it depends on how many children you have on how much people get. Your spouse will get 50% if there's one child. Your spouse will get a third, and your children will split 2/3 if there's more than one child, okay? If you are your spouse and parents, they split it 50-50. Understand, this is the separate property of each person. In California, we have what's called community property. Anything that's community goes to your spouse. It's your separate property, right? So in California, most things that you acquire while you're married are community property, right? So your spouse will get those. But if you inherit something, that can be separate property. Or if you own something before the marriage and you keep it separate, that can be separate property. Okay, so that's kind of how all this fun stuff works. Pretty much there's a reason why there's attorneys involved in this. It's crazy, right? And there are things in your estate that will not pass through intestate succession, right? So property that's in a trust, right? So again, if you set up a trust, you're going to avoid all of this. Your family's going to get the money instead of a bunch of attorneys. Yeah, you're going to pay some money up front, right? To set up a trust, maybe $2,000, $3,000. Well, it's way better than the 15 that they're going to take on the back end, right? And then you're in control and your family gets what you wanted them to have. So that's one option. Life insurance proceeds do not go to probate court, right? A life insurance contract will say who the beneficiaries are, and that will go direct to the beneficiaries without it going through probate court. IRAs, 401ks, retirement accounts, same thing. They will have beneficiary designations on them. So those accounts and those funds will go direct without the need for probate. Securities held in a transfer on death account. So you can actually set up any, if you have a brokerage account, you can set it up to say, upon my death, I want this person to get the account. That will avoid probate. Payable on death, you can set it up to say, when I die, this happens. And vehicles, if you have joint registration on a vehicle or other property, any sort of joint ownership where there's a right of survivorship. So again, you're going to want to see that joint tenants or right of survivorship in that language, then the other person will automatically get it. All right. Married couples in California, like I said, tends to be community property. Gifts and inheritances are separate property. And things you acquired before the marriage. Anything you acquired during the marriage is almost certainly community property, unless you have a prenuptial agreement, right? A prenuptial agreement can avoid this. But I will tell you, when people are getting married, they're rarely thinking about the breakup, right? That's not the thought process, right? If you're smart, you are. But most of us are lost in love and not thinking about that end of it. And then when we get to that point, right, we're like, what? I didn't take care of this? No, you didn't. You were in love and now you're not. And now you're mad. But that's life, right? So just knowing there's a lot of rules. So with a married couple, there is what's called a survivorship period. So for the person to get your stuff, they have to outlive you by 120 hours. So pretty much 5 days, right? So if me and my husband get in a car accident and I die, at the scene, and he lives for 6 days, then he inherits my stuff. Then when he dies, his estate would get the money. Versus if he and I died within that same 5 day period, my assets, so our assets would get split, and half of mine would go to my heirs, and my half would go to my heirs, and his half would go to his heirs, right? So there's a whole bunch of rules on this, on survivorship. So don't die first is the short answer, right? So that's how that one works. Okay. So like I said, a will is a good document to have. A will does not avoid probate, but I highly recommend having a will. It will at least tell people what you want and get things in that direction. So it is a legal document that you fill out to create that, to tell people what to happen upon your death, right? And you name someone as the executor, someone to manage your estate. Okay. So there are 3 different types of wills. A traditional will is drafted by an attorney, right? You can go get an attorney to help you prepare a will. It's witnessed by 2 people, and it's a valid legal document that would go to the probate court when you pass away. The second option is a holographic will. You can actually sit down and write out a will by hand, right? And so deathbed wills are something that happen, right? Where, you're dying and you go get a piece of paper and like write down really quick, this is what I want before you die. That is a holographic will. Those are valid and legal. There just has to be evidence that the person who created it, it's them, right? We want to make sure it's them, that they had the capacity, right? So they weren't incompetent at the time they signed it, and that they are expressing the intent of what to happen with their stuff when they die. Okay, so that's the second type of will. So you don't need an attorney for that. The third type of will is what's called a statutory will. California actually has a statutory form. It's 6 pages, fill in the blank. You can pull it off of the internet, and you can fill it out in less than 10 minutes. You can fill this out and at least have something to say what you want to happen with your property. So if you have nothing else, do a statutory will, literally 10 minutes, and then you have a plan, right? One of the big things people don't think about, if you have minor children and you have nothing put down in place of what you want, who you want to take care of your children when you pass, the court's going to pick who gets your children. Do you want that? Or do you want to have a say in who gets your children and what happens with them? That alone is a trigger and something that needs to be written down. It doesn't guarantee that the court will do what you want. All right. So just so you know, that is not something that from the grave you can control, but you can say who you want and the court will try to accommodate that. Right. So I don't want my in-laws having my kids, right? So I want to write that down and make sure that everybody knows that's who I don't want to have my kids, right? Actually, I don't want my parents to have my kids either, to be honest. But those are things that you can put in, like I said, in 10 minutes, you can put this down and be prepared. Heaven forbid something happen. Okay. So again, wills are great, but there's drawbacks. They don't avoid probate. With a will, your estate is going to be public, right? Because it's going to go through the court and anybody can find out what happened. So you hear about this with like celebrities when they don't have stuff in place. And now we know all their dirty, dark secrets, right? Because a will doesn't protect that. A trust does. So a trust is a much better document. Also, if you own property in multiple states, a will is going to be a limited document for state by state rules. So you may well have to have, in fact, you will have to have probate proceedings in every state where you own property. So not only are you paying California, but if you own a property in, New Mexico or Washington or whatever, then you got to probate there, get an attorney there, and pay probate costs there. So again, anybody who's in that position, a trust is a way better way to go to control your assets and manage your estate. So for real estate, if you are selling a property that has that is in probate, is needing to go through probate, what happens is you file a petition with the probate court, and then the court will issue what are called letters. Okay. That is what's going to be needed for the sale of the property. The person who's appointed, either the administrator or the executor, is going to have to get letters issued by the court that say what they can do and what can be done relative to the sale of the property. It's a standard form. They will always look like this. The answers and questions are going to be different depending on a case, but this form is what the title and escrow company are going to need to complete that sale. Okay. So you're going to want to make sure that that's done. If you have that situation, it takes about 2 to 3 months to get letters from the time that you file the petition. So even though that probate may take a year or two, once we get letters, we can sell the house, right? So that piece of the process can be done, and the money can then be put into the estate for future distribution to the beneficiaries. So just know that you don't have to wait till the end of the probate to sell a property. You just have to get authority from the court to sell the property. There are 2 different types of authority that the court can grant. And depending upon what type of authority you get will determine what you have to do as far as selling the property, whether you need court approval or not. If you get what's called full authority, that's a checkbox on that form. If it's checked full authority, you do not have to go back to court. The executor or the administrator has full authority to sell the house. They just have to notice the beneficiaries when they go under contract, and the beneficiaries have 15 days to object. If they don't object, the sale can go forward. Okay, so you don't have to go to court with full authority. With limited authority, what will happen is the court has to approve the sale. So a petition, when you go into escrow, a petition, and you just from a practical standpoint, there is separate CAR forms, real estate forms for probate transactions. If you have a probate sale, if your seller is probate and it's court limited authority, you definitely want to use the CAR probate forms because there's a whole bunch of different rules. We got to go in and file a petition, and it's called a report of sale and petition for order confirming sale. So we got to go into court and get authority. A hearing is set. And at this hearing, people can show up other than your buyer and overbid, and pay more for the house, which is happening right now, right? Like the courts have been almost closed, except for this one crazy thing, right? Where they're trying to sell a house in probate, and anybody in the public can show up and overbid and try to buy the house, okay? And with the way prices are right now, that's happening, right? And we're getting these crazy overbids. And I can tell you then what happens is there's this thing called buyer's remorse because they've overbid on these crazy numbers. I mean, you're talking, just in your conversation before, right? You got a house you listed at 900,000 and it sells for $1.2 million. Then all of a sudden we get this buyer's remorse, right? Of what is it appraised at? I heard a statistic that 32% of transactions are falling out because of these crazy, prices and people making these crazy bids and then kind of figuring out what they got themselves into and changing their mind, right? So that's one of the crazy things that's going on that happens in this case. But the problem is you're under court order to buy the house now. So if you fall out on a court ordered sale, the court orders damages and the estate gets money. So you want to be very careful and not overbid unless you're really ready to buy that house. But that's how it works with a limited authority sale. So you got to pay attention to that. So that's my spiel on probate, kind of how it works and what's going on. If you guys have any questions, feel free. And I'm glad to answer anything.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. That was a wealth full of information. Yeah. And we definitely try to encourage our clients to to do a living trust. Like you said, there's while you're living, you could get in a car accident, who's going to manage your affairs, so there's so much more than just like you're saying the home. And, it's funny that you mentioned, if you're not talking to someone, I've had someone who said, well, I don't want to do it yet because I don't know who I'm going to be talking to during that time. And it's sad, it really is a sad situation, because when you sit there and you tell them, you have to come up with one person who you are going to allow to manage, all of your affairs. Who do you trust? And I'm going to say probably about 90% can't think of anyone off the top of their head. And that is really sad. It really is a sad, sad situation. So
there are actually
prayers.
There are actually people who do that as a job. So you can actually appoint a professional to do that if you don't feel comfortable with someone in your family. Or that happens a lot on large value estates where they just want to have a professional manager of the funds. Or if especially like when they're small children and they want to make sure that the money is managed properly to make sure we get through the kid's lifetime and get them educated and things like that. So sometimes it's just because the family doesn't get along and they don't want one person getting, all the brunt of it. I'm never a fan of them appointing, like you got 4 kids and you make all 4 kids the successor trustees. Now all 4 of them have to agree on everything before you can do anything. Right.
Yeah,
how often does that happen?
Yeah, no. 2 is even too many. You'd be surprised. I've dealt with 2, and it's even tough with 2.
Right. So you're way better off. Just pick a professional to do it if that's going to be an issue, because then hopefully it keeps the family from breaking apart. Unfortunately, that's what I see the most is families who were fine before someone passed away. And now there's this, bucket of money and everybody's fighting over every penny. And the whole family just breaks down. And that there's no coming back from that. Right.
Yeah.
And that's just really unfortunate that money can drive people away from each other so negatively sometimes. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And, one quick question just to clarify. So I know you said if it's good to have a will. So, but if they have a living trust, then they don't necessarily need the will, or you recommend having both?
So when you have a trust, you still do a will in most cases. But what we do, it's called a pour over will. So POUR, pour over. And what it's designed for is, like if I go create a trust today, but I died 10 years from now, if I haven't touched it in 10 years and updated it and kind of managed my assets, the things I own today aren't going to be the things I own in 10 years, right? I bought a new car. I got some new jewelry. I might have bought a new house, right? And all of those things may not be in the trust, right? So the pour over will, what it does is it says anything I forgot to put in the trust automatically goes into the trust, right?
Okay,
so that way you have that will that just puts everything in the trust, and then the trust gets everything and you avoid probate. So that's what you want to have when you have a trust.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much again. Appreciate your wealth of knowledge. If any of you have questions or need any additional information, you feel free to reach out to Jennifer. She'll be happy to help you guys out there. Thank you again, Jennifer. Appreciate you being a guest on our show. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So, Walt, thank you guys so much for joining and tuning in. It's been a beautiful Wednesday. Again, whatever your needs are in real estate, let us know. We're here to help you and guide you, and have your guys' self a great rest of the week.
Yes.
Bye, guys.
Bye.